It was the mainly ruled by the five dynasty. They are the Mamluk dynasty 1206 to 90, the Khilji dynasty 1290 to 1320, and the Tughlaq dynasty 1320 to 1413, the Soyuz dynasty 1414 to 51, and the Lodi dynasty 1451 to 1526. The Maulik dynasty or the Salim dynasty 1206 to 90. Qutbuddin Aibak. He became the Sultan of Delhi due to the death of Muhammad Khori in 1206 and met at Lahore in his capital. Lahore, his capital, he is the resigned only 4 years and died in 1210 due to the falling from horse while playing the Sangan horse polo. He was the Sultan Lakbak Sultan one. Because of his generosity, he then led the function of Kutubuddin Minar, or Kutub Minar, named after the Sufi saint the Kutubuddin Bhakti Khaki, and also the Buddha Quat ul Islam, Moscow, Delhi, and the Adaitin Ghazapuri, Ajmer. Abbas was the succeeded by his son Haram Baks, who was the replaced by the Iltutmish after the 8th month. The Iltutmish 1211 to 1234. He was son-in-law of Qutbuddin. He belonged to the Ilabari rights to show some the history and call of the Sarab dynasty as the Ilabari dynasty also. And the Iltutmish shifted his capital from Lahore to Delhi. Some of the notable point after by about his region are as follows. That during Iltutmish region, the Mongols attacked under Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan. He reached the Indian the Saracens war and the enemy Jalaluddin, who was king of the Khwarizm. Jalaluddin the crossed the river Indus and the south asylum from the Iltutmish. The Iltutmish refused to give him the shelter in order to save his the empire from the onslaught of the Mongols. And the fortunately for the Iltutmish and the Genghis Khan returns home without the entering into India. In fact, the Mongol policy of the Iltutmish have Indian from the word of the Genghis Khan administration. The Iltutmish received the Mansur, the letter of reorganization from the Abbasid Caliphate in 1229, by which he will become the legal sovereign rule of India. Iltutmish introduced the Arabic the coinage into the India. He also introduced two coins by the silver tanka and the copper zidal. The silver tanka, the weighing 175 grams, became in the standard coins in the medieval India. He organized the ICTA system of the land revenue of the salary basis. Turkmenistan had also created a new class of the ruling elite of the 40 powerful military leader, the Salisa the 40. The Iltutmish appointed his daughter Rizia as his successor over the incompetent brothers after the Iltutmish death. Shah Turkan, the mothers of Iltutmish, the eldest surviving son, had her son the crown as the Rukuddin. but Santa Reziza put her the brother to death and usurped the throne. Rizia Sultana 1236 to 1240. Rizia was the daughter of Itutmi. She was the first woman ruler of Delhi. By that time, the Zeng as Salangi or the Salisa had become the very dominant. She could hold for only 3.5 years. She appointed and the Abhayashini selected the Yakut as the master of the royal horses. Also, the Regia that described the female efforts in the heart the court within the heart the face. Unvillaged she even went to the hunting and led the army. This the aroused resentment among the Turkish nobles. In 1240, Altunia, the governor of the Bhatinda, revolted against her. She went in the person to the oppressed in the revolt, but Altonia killed the Yakut and took the Razia prisoner. The main times the Turkish nobles put Bahram, another son of the Iltutmish, on the throne. However, the Razia won over her the captor Altonia, and after the marrying him, the proceeded to the Delhi, where she was defeated and killed. Then the Bahram was the overthrow, and the Nasiruddin Mahmud 1246 to 1266 was made the Sultan by the Balban, the head of the Salisa. He was a simple ruler and thus known as the Darvish king. Era of Balban 1246 to 1287. Balban was the regard of the Nasruddin Mahmud. He was the most powerful of the Salisa. He extended his position by giving his daughter in marriage to the Mahmud in 1266. Mahmud died without an heir and the Balban ascended the throne. According to the Balban, the Sultan was a god, the shadow on the earth, and the recipient of the dividing graces. Balban introduced the rigorous court discipline and new customs such as the prostration and the kissing the sultan's feet to the proof his superiority over the nobles. He also introduced the Persian festival of the Nowruz to the impress the nobles and the people with his wealth and power. He stood forth as the champion of the Turkish nobility. At the same time, he did not share power with other nobles, and the Balban was determined to break the power of the 40. That those nobles either spared only the most obedient nobles and eliminated all others by fear or the four means. Instead of the expanding his kingdom, the Balban paid more attention to the restriction of the law and order. He established a separate military government, Diwan-i-Ars, and reorganized the army. The outset of the Delhi were often surrendered by the Maoists. The Balban took the severe action against them. The prevented such the robberies. Robbers are the mar- markile- marginalized and the pushed and put to the death. As the result, the roads became the safe for the travel. In 1279, Togrul Khan, the governor of Bengal, revolted against the Balban. In the 1279, the Togrul Khan, the governor of the Bengal, revolted against the Balban. It was the suppressed, and he was the beheaded in the northwest. The Mongols repelled and Balbans and his son, the prince Mahmud, against him. But the prince was killed in the battle, and it was a moral blow to the Sultan. Balban died in 1287. When the Balban died, one of the grandsons, Haikubat, was the made the Sultan of Delhi. After 4 years of the incompetent rules, the Jalaluddin Khilji captured the throne of the Delhi in 1290. The Khilji dynasty, 1290 to 1320. Jalaluddin Khilji, 1290 and 1296. The founder of the Khilji dynasty was Jalaluddin Khilji. He was 70 years old when he came to the power. He was the generous and the alliant. His dynasty was the misunderstood as the weakness. The uh, Malik Sazu, the neighbor of the Balban, was allowed to remain the governor of the Kara. In 1292, when the Malik Sazu the reformed for the second time, he was replaced by his son-in-law Alauddin Khilji in 1296. Alauddin Khilji traces the murder his the father-in-law Jalaluddin Khilji and usurped the throne of Delhi. Alauddin Khilji, 1296 to 1316. Alauddin Khilji was the converted that the general prosperity of the nobles, intermarriages between the noble families, inefficient in the spy system, and the drinking liquor were the basic reasons for the rebellions. Therefore, he passed for the ordinance. He confiscated the properties of the nobles. The intelligence system was reorganized, and all the secret activities of the nobles were they immediately reported to the Sultan. The public sale of the liquor and the drugs was the totally stopped. The social gathering and the festival without the permission of the Sultan were forbidden, forbidden by the such the harsh measure. His the religion was free from the revelation. Reform of Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji had the last standing army, and he paid them in the cash. He introduced the system of the dark branding of horses and prepared the Hulia, descri- describing the horse the Hulia, describing the of the soldier, the introduce of the paying the salaries in the cash to the soldiers, flat to the press, the revolution, the popularly called as the market reform. The Alauddin Khilji established for and a separate market in Delhi. one for the grand, another for the pull of the sugar, try the food, butter and oil is the third for the horses, the slabs and the cattle, and a the fourth of the miscellaneous, the accommodation and the regulations were issued to the fix the price of all the accommodation in a separate department called the Diwani Riyasat was the created under and the officer called Naib I Riyasat. The harsh punishment was the given if the any shopkeeper the search the higher prices or the drag to the seat by using force the weight and the measures. He was the first Sultan of the Delhi who ordered for the measurement of land. Even the big landlord could not escape from the paying land tax. The land revenue was collected in the cash in order to the enable the Sultan to the claim and the soldier in the cash. His land revenue the reform provided the basis for the future the reform of the Sher Shah and Akbar military campaign. Alauddin Khilji sent his the army six times against the Mongols. The military conquest of the Alauddin Khilji included his the expedition against the Gujarat Mewar and the Deccan. He sent the Nusrat Khan and Ulugh Khan to the capture the Gujarat in 1299. The Kapur the Yunus was taken to the Delhi and later he was made the Malik Naik, the military commander. Then in the 1301 Alauddin marched against uh, Ratnapur and after the 3 months attack it fell. The Rajput Omenta committee Jawahar or the Sap revolutions. The Alauddin next turned against the Sitor. In 1303, the Alauddin stormed the Sitor fort. The Rajas Ratna Singh and his soldiers fought the Finland were submitted. The Rajput women included Rani Padmani, the performer the Jawhar. This the Padmani. The episode was the graphical the mentioned in the book the Padmavat written by the Zayashi. The Alauddin Khilji the Great Yasiman was the conquest of the Deccan and the first south. He sent his army under the Malik Kafur. The campaign resulted in the victory against the Vidovas of the Devagiri, the Kakatiyas of the Warangal, Hoysals of the Dwarsamudra, and the Pandyas of the Madurai. Alauddin Khilji died in 1316. Although the Sultan was the elected, he is the patronage poet like the Amir Khusrau and the Amir Hassan. He also built a famous gateway known as the Alai Darwaza and constructed a new capital at the city. The Mubarak Shah and the Khosrow Khan Shah were the successor of the Alauddin Khilji. Ghazi Malik, the governor of the Dipalpur, killed the Sultan Khosrow Shah and accessioned the throne of the Delhi under the city of the Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq in 1320, the Toghle dynasty, 1320 to 1350, Ghiyasuddin Toghle, 1321 to 1325. He found the city of Delhi near Delhi. Ghiyasuddin gave attempt to improve the finance of the state and the rebuild the policy to the encourage the agriculture. Ghiyasuddin continued the system of this instituted by the Alauddin. Ulugh Khan was said to have the treacherously killed his father and extended the throne. Ulugh Khan was said to have the treacherously killed his father and extended the throne with the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq in 1325. Muhammad bin Tughlaq 1325 to 1351. Estimate of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He was a very attractive characters in the history of the medieval Indian owing to the eruditions, the schemes and the noble experiment. The enterprise and the noble experiment ended in the miserable failures because they were all far ahead of their times. He was very tolerant in religions matter. He maintained the diplomatic relation with far of the countries like Egypt, China, and Iran. Contemporary writers like the Isami, Barani, and Ibn Battuta were unable to give the correct picture about his personality, but Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the only Delhi Sultan who had received a comprehensive literary, religious, and philosophical education. Failed project. He began his career with the explanation of the Khurasan. Ultimately, the project was abandoned as the unrealistic scheme, and the army was disbanded. It led to the uh, tremendous financial loss to the state. Accessor he did not take into account the geographical and the transportation difficulties. This passed the administrative measure as to enhance land tax in the Ganga Yamuna top that to the wood spirit that discounted as it was introduced at the times when the entire region was in the grips of the several famine due to the failure of the plan with the heaven due to the communication gap between the Sultan and the peasant. The Sultan raised the tax from the 5 to 10%. Therefore, the peasant instead of paying the tax, abandoned their land and globally. The tax collector continued to collect tax when the operation it resulted in the exchange revolt. The next venture of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the shifting of the capital of the Devagiri that was renamed the Dawlatabad in 1326 to 27. He involved almost the whole Sultanate of the population. He then thought it would help him to control both North India and South India. Muhammad wanted to the locate is the capital in the center part of the dead the empire, and he was the wanted to make it safe for the Mongol invasion. Every care was that taken to the provide a comfortable travel to the peoples to the new capital. But when some of the people resisted the transfer, and the Sultan ordered everyone to the ship as the punitive the measure without the releasing the sufferings crime due to this the complete eviction. Soon the Sultan discovered the unsustainability of the new capital. He ordered the people of the ship back to the Delhi once more. The Daulatabad was the abandoned the largely because his son found that the could not control northern Tempuram. Daulatabad the order of going back to the old capital closes the master distress to the people. Another of his novel and the daring experiment was the introductions of the token currency of the bronze coin in 1329 to 30. He was the inspired by a similar system to prevailing in Iran and China. The Sultan made this the two coins legal the tenders and the gifts the value at the part with the gold and the silver coins. Now Sultan issued the Tanka rupees of the silver and the copper coins. Peoples soon began to the manufacture the counterfeit of the bonds in the last number. As the result, bad money drops out, good money tax came to the distant, and the businesses was the paralyzed. The finally Muhammad Tughlaq decided to withdraw the token currency. The Sultan readily gave the gold and silver coins in the exchange for the bronze coins. The loss to the exchequer was the immense. As the result, the treasury was completely empty. Tughlaq established a separate department of agriculture called Diwan-e-Kohi. A special scheme was extended to improve the cultivation in the row in 1333 and 34 AD. Loan were provided to the peasant. However, the scheme failed miserably because the man chosen for the purpose proved to be the inexperienced, expression and the dishonest rebellions. The latter part of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq region the witness is spread of the rebellions by the nobles and the provincial governor. The revelation of the Hassan Shah resulted in the establishment of the Madurai Sultan in 1336. The Vizianagara kingdom was formed in 1347. Bahmani kingdom was established. The governor of the Oud, Multan and the Shin revolt against the authority of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq died on the March 20, 1351. Badmane observed and saw the king was the freed from his the people, and they they from the king the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. 1351 to 1388 AD. After the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq in the 1351, he is the first Cousin Firoz Tughlaq had been the chosen as the Sultan by the nobles. He appointed Khan Jahan Makubal, the Telugu Burmani convert as the Wazir. Wazir means Prime Minister. The Wazir helped the Sultan in his the administration and maintained the prestige of the Sultan's given his period. Hiroshima told that the Police safeguard his authority over Indian the institute of the resulting is the authority over the Deccan and Southern regions of the Empire. Was more notable for his administration. He strictly followed the advice of the ulemas in the running the administration. He replaced the nobles and the assured the hereditary the succession to their properties. Thus, the system was not only the revived but also it was made the hereditary. As per the Islamic law, he lived the taxes. Zazia was the exactly imposed on the non-Muslim. He was the first sultan to impose the irrigation tax, but at the same time, he took irrigation the canals and was a new department called Diwani I Khairat was created to tax the care or the orphans and the widows, free hospital and the marriage the Koreans for the poor Muslim was also established as he was the guided by the ulemas. He was the intolerant, intolerant toward the Shia Muslim and Sufis. He that treated the Hindus as the second grade citizens and imposed the jizya. Also, he increased the number of the slaves that defeated the persons. The games, the number of the slaves had increased to 1,00,000 when the first died in 1388. The struggle for power between the Sultan and the nobles, the state was that took place after the Firoz Shah took his then successor were with the last Tughlaq ruled the Nasiruddin Muhammad Shah 1394 to 1412 AD. The faces the invasion of Timur, the great Mongol leader of the Central Asia in 1398. He removed the Tughlaqs from Delhi. It ultimately led to the new dynasty known as the Soyd dynasty. The Soyd dynasty 1414 to 1451 AD. The Soyd dynasty ruled for about 27 years. They were ruled the neither the politically nor culturally. The Soyd dynasty made any what were the contributions to the medieval history of India. They had four kings: Khizar Khan (1414 to 1421) and Mubarak Shah (1421 to 34), Muhammad Shah (1434 to 1445), and Alauddin Shah (1445 to 1451). The Lodi dynasty (1451 to 1526). Lord Lodi (1451 to 1488). It is the found the rule of the Lodi dynasty by usurping the thrones from the last of the Saudi rulers. He the conquered the conquers the territories. He the conquered the territories about the Delhi, and after the continuous war, he succeeded in the extending his the authority over the Jaunpur, Rewai, Etawah, Mewar, Sambhal, Gwalior, etc. He was the king and the generous ruler. He was the always he was always the pyramid ruler. He is the subject throne. He was himself the literate. He accepted his the patroness to earth and the learning. He died in 1488. Sikandar Lodi 1489 to 1519. Son of the Pahlawan Lodi who the conquered the Bihar and West Bengal. He founded the Agra city. He founded the Agra city. He that shifted his the capital from the Delhi to Agra. Sikandar was a fanatical Muslim, and he the broke the sacred image of the Jwalamukhi temple at the Nagarkot of Himachal Pradesh and ordered and the temples of Mathura to be destroyed. Not he was the first sultan to the very temples out of the religion's purpose. He took ministerial interest interest in the development of the agriculture. He introduced the Qazi Sikandar, the Sikandar yards for the nation, the cultivation of the field. Ibrahim Lodi, 1570 to 1526 AD. He was the last king of the Lodi dynasty and the last sultan of Delhi Sultanate. He was the son of the Sikandar Lodi. Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of the Punjab, invaded the Babur from the central Asia to the overthrow the Ibrahim Lodi. Babur accepted the offer and the implicated and the Kurshins defeated the Ibrahim Lodi in the First Battle of Panipat in 1526. First Battle of Panipat in 1526. No Sultan of India except the Sultan Ibrahim had been killed on the battlefield. The main causes of the decline of the Delhi Sultanate, the death was taken the military types of government which did not have the confidence of the peoples. The degradations of the Delhi Sultanate is basically the old version of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq in components of the Firoz Tughlaq War of the Succession, as there was no fixed law for it like the eldest son with the equal throne. The invention of the Timur had the weakened the empire administration. Central government, the office of the Sultan was the most important of the administrative subject. He was the ultimate authority for the military, legal, and political activities. Sultan was uh, ascended by the number of the department and the official in the administration. The post of the knife was the most powerful. On the next to him was the wazir, who was the heading the finance department called the Diwani Uzarat. The military department was called the Diwani Aris. It was the headed by the Aris Imamoli. He was the responsible for the recruiting the soldier and administering the military department. The Sultan himself was the commander-in-chief of the army. The military department was the first set up by the Balban, and it was further improved by Aladdin Khilji. The Dionne reserved was the department of the religious that it was the headed by the chief Sultan Grand Wide made by his the department for the construction and maintenance of mosque, schools, tombs, and the madrasa. The head of the judicial department was the chief president. Muslim personal law of the Sharia was followed in the civil matter. The Hindus were governed by their own the personal law, and the other cases were decided by the palace council. The criminal law was based on the rules and regulations made by the Sultan. The department of the correspondence was the called the Diwani Insha. All the correspondence between the rule and the official was dealt with by his department. Local administration. The provinces under the Delhi Sultan were actors. The provinces were divided into the siels, and the next division was the Paragana. The siels were under the control of the Shikwadar. The Paragana, comprising a number of the villages, was headed by Amil. The village remained the basic unit of the administration. The village, the headman was known as the Mukaddaman or the Chowdhury. The village accountant was called the Patwari. Economy. The lands were classified into three categories: hectare land assigned to the official as the hectares instead of the payments for their service. Khalisa land under the direct control of the Sultan, and the revenues collected by the spent for the maintenance of the royal court and the royal household. The Inam land ascended of the granted to the religions. The leaders of the religions entered institution. The recently paid one third of their the produce as the land revenue, and sometimes even the half of the produce. The Sultan, like the Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Tughlaq, took the effort to enhance agricultural productions by providing irrigation facilities and by providing the Takapi loans. During the Sultan's period, the process of the uh, urbanization gained momentum in the number of cities and towns, and the growth during this period, and they then exported the number of competition of to the countries, one the Persia Gulf and West Asia, and also the Southeast Asia countries. The overseas state was under the control of the Multanis and the Afghan Muslim. Inland, the trade were dominated by the Guzar, Marwari, the merchants, and the Muslim Bukhara merchants. The cotton, textile, and the silk industry that flourished in this period. The sericulture was introduced on a large scale when the body was dependent on other countries for the import of the raw silk. The paper industry entered the ground, and there was an extensive use of the papers from the 14th and the 15th centuries. Other the craft like the leather making, the metal craft, and the carpet weaving and flourished due to the increasing demand. The system of the coinage and the also department were developed during the Delhi Sultanate and Iltutmish issue, and the several types of the silver tankers. One silver tank was divided into 14 48 citadels during the Khilji rule and 50 citadels during the Toghlea rule. Gold coin or the dinar became the popular during the reasons of the Alauddin Khilji after the South India conquest. Social life. There was a title sense in the structure of the Hindu society during this period. The traditional caste system, prominence of the Brahmins, the subservient positions of the women, were the prevalent. The Arabs and the Turks for the Partas system for the system into the Indian, and it became the worshiper among the Hindu women in the upper classes of the North India. The Muslim society remained divided into several ethnics and the racial groups. The Turks, Iranians, the Afghan and Indian Muslim developed the acceptability and this were not the immigrants by intermarriages between this the group Hindu convert from the lower caste were also God given the equal the respect. The Muslim noble occupied the high court, a high base, and the very rarely the Hindu nobles were the given high position in the government, art and architecture. The art and architecture of the Indian Sultanate period was directly from the Indian state. The two introduced the artist uh, domes, lofty between lofted what or the minaret and the T code coordination using the Arabic script. Some important feature of the Indo-Islamic architecture are Quran studied is the and the domes for the internet and the roof The flat entrance of the Indian style was known as Travis style. Indo-Islamic style avoided the human and animal the figure which were used to Indian style. Arbis was the method was used for the decoration. It was the continuous the geometrical patterns. The Zen work, extensive Zen work was used to have the sufficient light. Extensive use of the water like the um, pools and the pudding sister and the Sena style gardens, the fourth and